Okay. All right. Hopefully everything is working. So I'm going to go ahead and start. Welcome everyone. Glad you could all make it here. This is an Odoo webinar that's made for Odoo partners, so that we can hopefully teach you and help you learn a little bit about how to increase your sales and close more deals with your clients. So I find that we learn by asking questions and keeping them in mind. So I've structured the webinar accordingly. For each section that we go over, I'm going to be approaching from the basis of a question that we're hoping to answer. So the first question here would be, who am I and why am I giving this webinar? My name is Raul Martin Caballero. I work for Odoo from our San Francisco office. I'm an account manager working with our channel network and our Odoo partners. I currently work with our gold and silver partners in USA and Canada. But over the last 2 years of my experience at Odoo, I've worked with Odoo partners in Latin America as well, so I've experience with that market. And now I'm working in North America, and I've worked with a wide variety of partners, ranging from learning to the gold level. I've seen a lot of cases, and I've worked with clients from all types of industries, and I've seen a lot of different types of projects that require many different implementations. Each project is different. And also how each partner wants to work is different, so the account manager is going to adapt accordingly, just like the partner is adapting to how Odoo works and what each client wants. So I'm hoping that with my experience I could share a little bit of advice and hopefully have you take something away with you that's going to help you in the future to grow as your partner and to understand a little bit better how to work with your account manager in order to have more success. First, I think it's important to answer the first question. Who are you? What is an Odoo partner? And what is your role for Odoo and for the client? You know you're an Odoo partner, and us at Odoo, we know why you're here. You're here because you see the potential in Odoo, because you have a great team that can work to support our clients, and you're motivated to gain clients, support them, help them use Odoo to their benefit, and you're ambitious and you realize the potential of Odoo to revolutionize the future of ERP software. We work together and we want each other to succeed because you take care of Odoo's clients and we take care of you by helping you promote your services as well as providing leads for you. So the best Odoo partners understand the value of working closely with Odoo. It can sometimes seem like we're separate entities, but I hope that throughout this presentation you're going to understand why it's very important to have a very close relationship with us. And the next question I wanted to answer is, how do we want clients to see you as an Odoo partner? An Odoo partner is a part of this whole system. You're trained at using Odoo, you're an expert. You have access to the Odoo Enterprise source code, which means that you can provide functional and technical implementation. If necessary, you can go in and customize anything that they need and adapt Odoo exactly towards them. And you have a direct relationship with Odoo. It's very important to always establish this. We work together, and it's not a separate thing that a client is doing where they're working with someone and Odoo doesn't know that they exist. That's why it's always important to have your Odoo representative be present in your meetings, let the customer know that they're aware and that they're vouching for the partner and legitimizing them as someone who understands Odoo and who is a great resource for the partner. You're going to be the first level of support for this client. You're on the front lines, you're helping them in the day-to-day if necessary, and you're the first person they're going to want to call for support whenever they have a problem or when they have any questions. I'm just getting a message, it seems like the slides are not updating accordingly. So just give me a moment. All right, coming back. Hopefully the slides are updating. It seems like there's a little bit of the delay with the slides, which is too bad because it would be great to have you see what I'm trying to explain at the time. I'm gonna keep going and hopefully it's updating accordingly. I was explaining a little bit about the dynamic between Odoo and their partners and how they both interact with our customers. The Odoo partner should make it clear that they are not simply providing an implementation and providing the code or selling code for a project, and that's going to be the beginning and the end of their relationship. The partner is going to be there and have the customers back, and it's going to be an ongoing relationship. You want to build the trust and let them know that you are now an external part of their business, and that it's going to be a recurring dynamic where you're constantly there to help them in case they want to expand their business and use Odoo for more, and you're also going to be helping maintain their data and upgrade them whenever Odoo has a new version. I wanted to go ahead with an analogy that has helped me and hopefully can help some of you understand a little bit better how Odoo and the Odoo partners work. It's something that in the past has helped me clarify things for clients, and I've noticed it click once they get past that confusion of the relationship and what the dynamic is between the client and Odoo and the Odoo partner. And the analogy here is that an ERP implementation is like building a house. The reason why I see it this way is because building a house is a very important decision. It's a long-term commitment and it can be expensive. So it's always going to feel a little bit risky, and the customer is going to want to feel a high level of confidence to move forward, and they're going to want to work with people that they can trust because they'll understand that they're going to require input from people with different skills. It's something that's very difficult to do all by yourself, and something that you're always going to want the advice of people with experience. And it's understandable that most people have their own lives and they haven't put in the time to learn all the details required into such a complicated project. In this dynamic of a house, Odoo would be providing the materials, which is the product, our software. For the house, this would mean Odoo's providing the walls, the furniture, the lighting, all the appliances. It's kind of like a Lego in that image before. It's like you have all the pieces, and anyone is free to try to build a house on their own. You can go on Odoo, download the product, purchase the license, and go ahead. If you have a simple project, it might be feasible, but anyone who has experience with these kind of things knows that it's hard to do it alone, and especially if they're running a business, they're going to want some support. This is where the partner comes in. The partner is like a contractor. They have experience building houses. They know what are the best practices. They've done it before, and they can work alongside the customer in order to make sure they get what they want. And they can adapt to whatever the customer wants, what kind of process they prefer. Just like with a house, clients are going to want different things, and they're going to want a different approach. Some want the least hassle possible. They're going to let the partner know exactly what they want, and then they just want to step away from it, not worry about any of the construction, and then get handed the key at the end. Others have very specific needs, and they like to be involved in every step of the process. They're going to work closely with the partner, and they're going to have their little adjustments and their little preferences for each little step. These are different implementations, but partners should be open to both kinds of clients, because in the end, it's just a different preference of how they want to work. And if a client can afford it, they can have the next, they can have the final house after not having seen any of the construction for it, and then come in and request little modifications. If a client has been more involved with the partner throughout the whole process, once the final product is reached, there's probably going to be a lot less modification afterwards. So for the long run, that can be a better way to approach it. But in the end, for some clients, it simply seems more worth it for them to stay away from it and not have to put in the time and effort. And they can have the peace of mind that they're going to step away from this and end up with what they want. It's just a way to kind of understand how it works and why Odoo is there and they understand what they're providing, but the partner is the one who is there to do the heavy lifting for the client. While for anything that they might need from Odoo, they're going to be able to help out whenever necessary. So hopefully this helps you understand a little bit of how the partners fit into the entire Odoo ecosystem. We all work together and we share a lot of the same goals, and our success is mutual. Odoo is primarily a software company, much more so than a service company, which is why the partners are crucial for us. We can focus on creating and improving our product, and the partners keep our clients happy and they support them. This is why Odoo wants to focus as much as we can on supporting the partners in this process and making your job easier while attracting more business. It's because the success of one is the success of the other, and we all want Odoo to become larger and more of a well-known and successful software for our clients. The last point I wanted to make concerning the partners and understanding where you stand and what you look like externally is to review the partner level system. All of our Odoo partners are published on our website, and lots of interested customers, they're going to go there immediately as soon as they learn a little bit about Odoo and they realize that they do need some support, and this is how they're going to find their partners. It's a really, really great way to attract leads, and they'll often contact partners directly without contacting Odoo. The partners on our website are listed by their partner level. So all Odoo partners should work closely with their account managers, first of all to keep their partner page updated, to have all their references online, and to have good descriptions and explain how they did their project implementations. That way the client knows a little bit about their experience. And it'll help them choose who their partner is going to be. Now, the main way to increase your partner level and to jump up on that list is through new sales. So I'd like to move forward into how we're going to help to make that happen. Like I said, before anything else, it's important for partners to understand their role. You need to know who you are and how to present yourself so that you can define what your purpose is and why the client should be listening to you. Once that is clear, we're going to have to focus on actually getting new clients, because that's how you're going to run your business. And the first step is always going to be helping them understand what they're going to get themselves into. You're going to be answering this question a lot, so you need to be comfortable knowing how you're going to address this and what they're actually asking when they ask this. I set this first slide, the elevator pitch, because it might sound silly, but sometimes it's important, and you're going to be in the case where you're going to have to start very simple, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. I've definitely had qualification calls where someone was really lost in terms of what they were looking at, and it went a long way to kind of take it back a second and remind everyone of what's going on. If they're not completely aware, explain to them that Odoo is an ERP. It's a business software solution. It's meant to automate a company's internal processes and eliminate as much manual effort as possible. It can help a company transition to become paperless, and it's going to connect their departments and their employees even without being in the same office, which obviously now is more valuable than ever. It's going to centralize their processes. We're going to go into this in a second about the integrated aspect of Odoo, as well as the flexibility of it being open source. I'm just listing this first as the sales pitch you can do in 2 minutes if someone has no idea what Odoo is, and you might lose them as soon as they don't understand what you're talking about. These are some key words that are going to give them a very basic idea of whether they want to keep listening to you. I also wanted to add the part about hosting options. The big priority for a lot of customers is to understand where their data is going to be stored. It's understandable for security reasons, and a lot of companies are going to like to hear that there is an on-premise server option. And this is also a great shoo-in for both Odoo and specifically Odoo partners, since they are required in order to install an on-premise server for clients. Now, if you have a little bit more time and they understand what Odoo is now, they'll be aware of the fact that Odoo is a software product and that it could help their company. but right now there's a lot of options available in North America, more than anywhere else, and they're all claiming to be the best fit for them. So the next thing you want to make sure is to explain, how does Odoo differentiate themselves in the marketplace in terms of a business model, their product, and their services? This is going to be a lot of times what really brings you to the next step of our sales process. You want to isolate Odoo as a specifically better option than whatever else they might be looking at. And we're going to start with what I already mentioned. The integrated aspect of Odoo is really where it can scale and where customers are going to see a real value that they can't find anywhere else. There's a broad coverage of all types of functional needs. The apps are all natively integrated, and they can cover all business needs under one solution. More than ever, businesses are using a lot of different specialized software, and while they can work great, their employees are learning lots of different programs, companies are paying lots of different license subscriptions, and it can get really messy really fast. They're still having to manually input data from one program to another, and a lot of things can get lost, a lot of human errors can be made, and Odoo fixes all of these problems. So it not just automated results, has a lot of traceability between processes of different departments, but it doesn't require wasting time for the company or for a partner, a third-party implementer, with building integrations between the different software. It's all going to happen automatically. As soon as you add an app, it's going to know how to interact with everything else. Odoo is ideally used by a company in any industry, and that every department within it could be on Odoo. Another great advantage is that Odoo really is easy to use. The UX and the UI is constantly being improved. The user interface is made to be really familiar, really easy to understand, and the format's very consistent throughout. Once you've seen one Odoo app, you're going to have a pretty good idea of how the next app is going to look, despite the processes being very different. This makes learning new apps a very intuitive process, which can't be overstated because a lot of enterprise software is really ugly looking or really difficult to learn, and employees hate using it, even though their company wants them to be, because it makes their lives easier. It doesn't make the employees' lives easier. And once employees, even people who aren't very tech savvy or just generally don't like having to use technology for their job, once you get them to understand that Odoo is very easy to use and they can replace their manual processes with a few simple clicks, it's going to go a really long way, because that way the accounting team and the warehouse management team, they're all going to be communicating through Odoo, and it's going to feel like they understand why this is a big advantage compared to whatever their previous system was. The next benefit is the scalability. In Odoo, you pay what you use, and that's a really nice system for companies that maybe don't know exactly what they need, or maybe they're only aware of their very specific short-term needs, and they want to consider the fact that maybe in the future they're going to use more of Odoo's apps and more features. Odoo doesn't force you into a big enterprise package, and so the license costs can vary from very, very cheap into becoming something that is going to replace a lot of different programs and justifies itself that way. Apps can be added at any moment. They're going to be prorated according to the length and the duration of your subscription and where you're at whenever you add them. And installing them is incredibly easy, and the connections with other apps are going to be done automatically. They're going to communicate with each other, and it's going to help you avoid the typical approach of a large ERP package where you end up paying for a lot of features that you don't even need, or maybe your employees don't even understand. You're going to know why everything is there, and you've made a specific decision to add a specific app. And it's always great to remind your clients of the durability of Odoo. By this I mean the trustworthiness, the dependability, and the usability in the long term. The durability is how serviceable it's going to be in the long term. And Odoo is there for its clients, directly and through its partners. But a client at any moment can go on our website and request support tickets, and they're going to have someone that's going to get back to them. There's support 24 hours on all weekdays, and Odoo provides free upgrades as well as security alerts whenever something might need to be notified for the client. There's going to be no hidden costs. Everything is going to be very transparent, so there's going to be no surprises. Next is the flexibility. If a client doesn't understand this, it's great to make them aware of this from the beginning. Odoo is incredibly flexible due to its open source nature, but also due to the fact that it's constantly being updated and constantly being improved, and due to the services that a partner can offer. Odoo can be adapted as much as a client needs to how they want to run their business. So if a client is prioritizing everything being adapted to them, Odoo can do that to them, and they don't have to feel like they're learning or adapting to a specific program and changing how they're going to run internally. It's really useful, and it goes a long way once a client understands how much they can just tell their partner they want to change how something looks, or they want to change how something interacts, or they want to add a very specific feature, and they can do that with the confidence of knowing that it's probably going to be possible. It's not something that clients are used to. And of course, there is the possible integrations with other software. I know I've gone a long time about how Odoo can replace everything that you need, but it doesn't have to feel like an ultimate commitment. We get a lot of clients, especially in North America, that approach Odoo to replace one specific department, or because they have one feature in their company that they're not very happy with, and so they're hoping that Odoo can do it a little bit better. They're going to come into this requesting integrations with their existing processes, and there's many reasons for this. Sometimes they have an existing commitment with other software and they can't break that, at least not in the short term. Sometimes their employees are already really used to a software and they don't want to learn something else. While some departments might be more open to change because they're having more specific complaints, others don't want to have to do this because they're happy with how things are going. And sometimes the company, it's only been approved to update one specific department, and so in order for them to change to a new system, it needs to still work and be able to communicate with everything else. And that's not a problem. It's great for Odoo and our partners to always let our clients know that Odoo can adapt to their needs. It's very API friendly. There's a lot of out-of-the-box integrations, more and more. We have delivery integrations with FedEx, UPS, USPS. We have connections with Amazon, eBay, a lot of different types of electronic invoicing. And then there's even more that can be done with the help of our partners. We can do third-party custom integrations that our partners are going to create. And that way, a company can use Odoo as much as they want to or as much as they need to. A lot of these connections have also been created already, which is great for the partners as well as for the clients. It saves time for both of them. We have an app store with a lot of connectors that have been created, and then they're available to everyone else. So even if it's not exactly what someone needs, it's a great way to have a basis for what you're trying to create and not have to start from zero. Lastly, Odoo not only does processes more flexibly and in a more integrated manner than what other software creates and offers, but it also has features that you're just not going to find in traditional ERPs. It's a great way that we attract customers that just can't find these features somewhere else, and then they realize that they can replace more traditional processes that they're using with another more traditional and expensive software. These are features such as social marketing integrations, an e-learning platform, fleet management, e-signature for electronic invoicing to confirm quotes, as well as email marketing and marketing automation. And Odoo is constantly adding more, so it's great to attract It's a great way to attract clients that they kind of stumble upon Odoo this way, and then they end up realizing that they could use it as a full ERP. So this was a little bit longer, but I think it's great to have very ingrained, especially for the new partners, why they're going to be recommending Odoo over other softwares. It's integrated, it's easy to use, it's flexible, it's durable, it's scalable, and it's affordable. And the fact that you're going to be replacing multiple softwares to one means that you're saving even more money than just going from one to another. Now, I want to go through some common concerns that I've had in my experience speaking with lots of different clients in a lot of different cases, and some advice on how to address them, because they are going to come up and you're going to have to flip them against the clients. One is brand awareness. In North America, more than anywhere else, you're going to have this more. This might be a cultural thing, or it might just be because there's a lot more competition. So clients are going to want to first look into something that they've heard of, their Amazons, Google, Oracle. So it's going to feel a little bit like an uphill battle sometimes to talk about Odoo when they've never seen or heard anything about Odoo. It can seem like Odoo is this small startup that barely has anything to stand on, but you need to flip it against them and make them realize that Odoo has been around for a long time, and its value and success has been proven over and over again. It is a startup that was made in Belgium, so its market began in Europe, but from there it's expanded to be a worldwide company. We have 11 offices. It's been around for 15 years. We have millions of users, and it's growing incredibly fast. So as a partner especially, you're going to want to reassure the client into letting them know that Odoo as a company is really a sleeping giant in North America. It doesn't have the marketing budget and isn't interested in it to make everyone know what it is, but anyone who's taken a look at what it can do, they realize the value in it. And it's already proven it. It's not just being used by small local businesses. It's been used for a variety of industries in very large and important levels. Academic institutions and large-scale enterprises and several government entities in different countries, including the US military, which would usually be one of the most difficult to get into due to a lot of bureaucracy and a lot of security requirements. So reassure your clients with this, and then give them the benefit of the doubt to at least take a look at what Odoo can do. But it's important to let them know that Odoo is on version 14. It has been improved and expanded upon for a long time. It's not something new, and it's not an experiment. It's a proven success. The next complaint will be about price. It's going to happen. Sometimes it's a negotiation tactic. Sometimes it's coming from a real place. It also is going to involve upfront payments. A lot of clients come in with maybe an uneducated or a misguided expectation that they're only going to have to pay once they go live, but that's really the wrong way to look at it, because they're going to need support from day one. If they're working with a partner, they're going to need support during the implementation more than any other time. Regardless of how involved the client wants to be, the partner is going to be going back and forth with them to make sure that what they're doing isn't a waste of time and they're not creating something that the client didn't want at all. Also, the data that they're going to be using to set up the database needs to be hosted and maintained, and the partner is going to have to be testing it. So we do have a phased methodology. You do only pay what you use. So it allows you to start small and then increase, but they need to understand that once they have made the decision, it has to come from somewhere, and it's an investment. They're making a big decision for their company, so they shouldn't see it as an expense. It's something that's in the long term going to save them a lot of money, and it's going to save them a lot of time. So throughout the process of demoing and showing them how everything's going to work, we need to help them understand that this is going to really pay off in the long term, and that they can't be focused on the price or on the immediate payments. Now here's another one that happens a lot because of the variety of competitors. It has to do with why should they go with Odoo if it's generic, and a lot of people feel comfortable with a specialized software. This is going to come up a lot, and I think of it a little bit as with an analogy of a buffet versus a specialty restaurant. If you're hungry, sometimes you don't want a variety of being able to choose everything and anything you want. if all of it is going to be a little bit mediocre. Sometimes you know exactly what you want and you want the best restaurant possible for that thing specifically, and you don't care that it doesn't offer everything else. This is the image we want to take away from people when they think of Odoo. Odoo is not a jack of all trades, master of none, where they're going to feel like they're sacrificing a lot in terms of integrating and the convenience of that. Odoo, especially with the support of a partner, is like having a personal chef. So, as well as delivery of all the ingredients that you might need. So you're not just conforming to what's available to you with some artificial variety, but not a lot of very specific quality. You're actually able to request things very specifically, and you're going to get it. And then once you get that integrated with a lot of different apps, they're going to understand that it's very worth it in the long term. If a client is skeptical and they're comparing Odoo a lot to some specific software that it's competing against, say they just want inventory management to start, but they're also looking at some software that's only for warehouse management, and it's made very with that vertical of approaching clients that just need their stock. Just get right to it and ask them what they need. Answer their questions, take their needs, and then go one by one down the list and address how Odoo can approach each thing. A lot of companies might think they're a lot more niche than they actually are, and they might think that it's very difficult to fulfill and create a solution for what they want. But the truth is that it's often not the case, and that they don't need something so specialized. And if they do, Odoo is one of the softwares that can most adapt to these needs, especially with support of a partner. So it's a conversation that's going to come up, but it's also one that I feel like can be more easily addressed as soon as you start defining what they actually need, and you're moving away from preconceived notions and a little bit of skepticism that might just be a natural response. Another issue sometimes, or something that clients might think they need in order to be reassured that Odoo is the right decision, is that they want to speak with someone in person or directly who has a very similar experience, a very similar company, just to make sure that they've had exactly the best kind of implementation, that they have had success with this. It's easy to make clear from the beginning that it's not going to be possible to find a one-to-one case that's going to match your company. And even if it seems very similar, just because Odoo works for that company doesn't mean it's going to be exactly the same. Every company has its own internal operations, they have their own culture, so it's not going to be a 100% guarantee nonetheless. So it's best to stray away from that and to let them know that we do have a lot of resources in terms of hopefully you're seeing now the references page. The reason why we want to move away from going along with the user's request of speaking with a company that has had a similar implementation just to make sure that Odoo is going to work for them is that our users who have the clearest overview of Odoo's impact are going to be the C-levels, they're going to be the executives who approved of this and who can see the widespread impact of Odoo on their company. And they're often very busy running their business. They don't want to be disturbed with every client who has doubts about Odoo and to talk about why Odoo is a good fit for them or why this partner is a good implementer. If you get this kind of request from a client, you should make sure to set the right expectations as early as possible and let them know that there's a lot of ways online that they can see examples of Odoo customers. We have a public blog with lots of customer success stories, as well as a variety of testimonials on our YouTube page, and this way we can avoid wasting our clients' precious time. I want to end this saying that it is possible to have delivered such an exceptional implementation where you have a client that's incredibly happy with the partner and with Odoo as a product, and they will be willing to help you whenever you request from it. I say it because I've seen it, and it's fantastic when you have this option. They're going to praise Odoo as a software, something that saved their life and saved their money, and they're going to praise you as an Odoo partner. But while it's a great motivation in every implementation you do, that hopefully you want to leave them that happy and that willing to help you back in the future, keep in mind that these are unicorns. They're very rare, but if you do manage to have this kind of relationship, due to the success of your implementation, they're incredibly helpful to gain the trust of a client and will help you close your deals. It's really the most ideal relationship you could have with a client if you feel comfortable knowing that you could ask them to help you out with this. It's by far one of the best ways to turn a client from doubtful or just lightly considering to convinced and willing to work with you. The next step that's important in terms of gaining clients, once you know what you're going to say and how you're going to sell Odoo as a product, you need to know who are you talking to, what do they need, because then you're going to be able to adapt into proposing the solution for them. For this, it's important to have really good CRM management. You want to work as closely as possible with your account manager because it's a great resource. It's someone who wants you to get more leads and wants you to succeed at advancing in the sales process. They're there to support you. So establish a good dynamic from the beginning on how you're going to interact and communicate with each other through the CRM. It does go a long way to use all the features in the CRM and use it to your advantage. Log notes in the chatter. After a first call, let your partner know or let your account manager know everything that you've discussed that might be relevant. Set activities either for yourself or for your account manager. The activities can range from any kind of thing that you're going to need, and it's a great way to stay organized. And update the stage of your opportunity. As your pipeline gets filled with more and more opportunities, you're going to want to keep it organized, and you want to be able to quickly see which are already qualified, which have already advanced, and you're already proposing a certain solution, or which ones you're negotiating. It's a really good way for you to be organized, your account manager to be organized, and everyone is on the same page. Also, you're going to be receiving contacts from potential leads directly to you, especially as you increase your presence online. They're going to talk to you, and it's very important to always communicate this with your account manager. Let them know someone spoke to you, even if it was just one call or one email, so that they can upload the lead and start updating information, and you can start working with them to plan out a strategy of how you're going to approach the next steps. There's a lot of benefits from keeping both sides informed, both the Odoo and the Odoo partner. The more information that there is on either side, the more you can brainstorm and start evaluating what's the best way to approach it. And always remember, the account managers are going to have seen a lot of different cases. They work with several different partners, and they're in a team with a lot more account managers that work with a lot of partners. So there's a lot of combined experience that you have available to you. So don't forget that. You're able to request a lot of advice from people who have seen similar cases to what you might be facing right now. On that first call, it's important to keep in mind this qualification template is a great way to make sure that you're getting the right information. You want to know the size of the company and who you're talking to. You want to know if you can get an idea of how much they're willing to invest in this new project. Is it just something they're considering, or is it something that has already been put in motion that they are looking for a replacement? Do they have a budget in mind? Because it's possible that sometimes they do understand how much they're willing to put in for both licenses and for their implementation. The authority is important to know because you want to know what is their stake in the process as well as what is their influence. Are they the final decision maker in whether this is going to be approved or not? Whether Odoo is going to be chosen or whether they can go forward with this. Always make sure that you know who is going to be the people who you need to be influencing in a certain way, whether it's in regards to the functional features of Odoo, the technical or security requirements that they want to be clear on, or the finances of whether they can even afford it. It's always important to know their needs. Ask them what their pain points are. Ask them why they're looking for a new ERP software. Sometimes it's very specific, sometimes it's a little ambiguous, and they're just browsing and seeing if there's something that could help them update their data. You'll be able to know if they're open to more features or if they're going to be very stubborn about only replacing one specific thing. And last is their timeline. That's important, especially for you and your account manager, to know how to structure your approach. Do they have a plan to go live with a new feature if they are that certain of going forward with something else? Are they evaluating other software? And so how is that going to affect their timeline? Sometimes they have planned dates for when they're going to make a decision on the new software, and then they're going to move forward. So it's good to always have as much information as possible that's going to help you how to organize your leads and plan accordingly. Here are just some quick traps or mistakes that you should try to avoid as you are qualifying your leads. When you talk to them, they're going to be asking you a lot of questions about Odoo, about what the partner can do for them, and so make sure that you're also asking back. You want as much information from them as they want from you. Also, avoid making any commitments or making them have too much of an expectation in terms of pricing, especially for implementation. This is really important for the partners. On the first call, the client might act like this is their priority because to them it gives them the clearest idea of whether they're going to want to move forward or next. But it's very important to let them know that the cost can be very variable depending on what they want and how they want it set up, how much they're willing to go with an out-of-the-box solution, or how much they're going to need something customized or developed. Also, don't be too pressured to say yes to everything. Don't overcommit, don't overpromise, because you want to set the right expectations so that it doesn't feel like they're going to throw something in your face later on. Let them know that something might be possible without saying it's a 100% guarantee. And again, don't discuss the pricing before you've presented the value. If they just think of Odoo or as an Odoo partner as a number, then they're going to be looking at it the wrong way, and they're going to be trying to justify everything compared to this number value that they have in their head. And be clear to have a good qualification so that you know how to prioritize your leads and your customers. Some of them are going to be a lot of work for very little results. It's possible to have very small clients who are just very demanding and very frustrating to work with. So you need to understand that it might just be better to prioritize other clients that are more open-minded and who are going to be easier to work with, and they're going to be more reasonable with you. And play the balance between what they want and recommending alternate ways. Sometimes they're going to want a lot of integrations or a lot of custom dev work, and then they're going to complain about the cost of it, when you should be suggesting alternate ways of approaching these problems that are going to be a little bit of extra learning on their side, but it's going to cost them much less and help them in the long term. The next step that is very important to have clear is the product demo, since this is a crucial part in showing them what Odoo is going to do for them. It's great to talk to them and let them know everything that you can do and the Odoo can do, but they're not going to be fully convinced until they actually see something. For this, just a small reminder that it's very important to really understand the product and be properly trained and educated. We have great resources internally. Our e-learning platform and the partnership knowledge base are a great way to start and learn about all the different apps and all the different ways that you should know about implementation services. But there's also a wide variety of resources online. Odoo's been around for a long time. People have been implementing Odoo for a long time, so you can always learn more. It's a very expansive software, and you're really never done learning. So keep that mentality of always wanting to learn more, because it's going to be helpful for you. Like I said before, don't be afraid to let a client know, I don't know if this could be possible, this might be possible, I'm going to look into it and let you know later. But it obviously goes a long way when you already know immediately whether what they're asking is going to be possible, or you already know what it is, and you have that confidence of knowing that it's true. When you're demoing and you've set up a meeting to show off the product, the first thing you need to know before you start preparing it is to know who you're giving a demo, because it's going to change a lot depending on your audience. How much have you spoken to them, and how much do they know about Odoo? Have they ever seen Odoo before? Did they download a trial and play around with it? Get an idea of their level of technical knowledge, and get an idea of if they've asked you to see some very specific processes, or if they just want a general idea of what Odoo is so they can start thinking of how it could work for their company. This is why a good qualification is very important, and you want to make sure to let your clients know what they'd like to see in a demo. You don't want to waste anyone's time, you don't want to bore anyone, and it's important to make sure everyone's on the same page. If someone has never seen Odoo before, we recommend what we call the standard flow for Odoo. This is just a great, fast way to show a lot of the features in Odoo and help a client quickly understand the integrated aspect of it. This flow is to generate a lead from the website, show how that creates an opportunity on the CRM, create a quotation straight from that opportunity, convert that quotation by showing how it's automatically created, has an e-signature and electronic invoicing, convert it to a sales order, and then you can go into how that's going to trigger both an accounting process by allowing you to create an invoice, or go into inventory and trigger a delivery, and you can go into all the inventory processes, which can be really impressive as well. Once you're in inventory, there's a lot of things you can go into, so keep it light if this is their first demo ever, but regarding their qualification, if you know a little bit what they might be more interested in seeing, you'll want to delve a little bit more in. But you want to know the main flow of how these apps are going to interact with each other, and even if it's some of the features that they don't really need, maybe they're not planning to actually use it as a website, maybe they don't want to use it for accounting, it's a great way to highlight the integrated aspect of how apps interact with each other and how you're going to go from one app to the other without having to go back to the dashboard. So it's just a great way to train first your employees. It's how we train internally, because it gives a very quick 5 to 10 minute way of really highlighting the added value of Odoo once you start using a lot of apps together. It's also a great opportunity to do some light editing with Studio, or showing off the contact profile of whoever you were using in this flow, and seeing how everything that you've done has been updated accordingly. And it's also important to go over the chatter throughout every part of the flow, because it's a very consistent interface option that is really great for all the clients to see, because it's communication between your employees, it's ways to organize yourself with activities, and it's ways of, especially for your CRM, managing your salespeople and helping out the managers more than anything. Another great little detail is to mention the access rights. I just say this because very often clients see how Odoo is showing off all the different departments, and they get a little bit concerned about whether everyone's going to be able to see everything. So it does reassure them to know that the administrator can manage what people see, what people can edit. So here are some traps and mistakes to avoid in terms of the demo. First, don't go too quickly, especially if it's their first time seeing Odoo. You want to go slow, and you want to be able to stop and answer any questions. You don't want to say, I'll take questions at the end. It's very important to be able to engage your audience. Go through and start to see the gears turning in the client's head, because if they ask you questions, that means they're paying attention and that they're starting to imagine their company using Odoo. That is what you want. You don't want them to be silent and to just watch what you're doing as if it's a training session, because it's not. It's meant to be a very light presentation on what Odoo could do so that they can start thinking about it. And again, you're showing the usability. Don't explain all the details of how Odoo works, because while we know why that's interesting and why that's great, it's not what the first thing that the client wants to see. They want to understand what their employees are going to be doing and why this is valuable for them, why this is saving them time. And once again, know your audience. If you're talking to someone highly technical, don't go into all the different departments and spend a long time highlighting how each employee is going to be using it. Focus on some of the technical details. If you're speaking to the executives, give them the big picture, show them the analytics, show them how they're going to be able to easily group data and see lots of types of information in a very easy way. Sometimes you're going to have to give a more specific demo highlighting just one app, which is why you really want to be able to be sure that you understand each app, especially the ones that are most commonly going to be requested. Odoo gets a lot of requests for inventory, for manufacturing, we get a lot of requests for website and electronic invoicing, and we get a lot of requests for our e-commerce abilities, but it could be anything else. Don't waste their time showing them the whole ERP compatibility if it's been clearly defined that it's not what they're interested in seeing, at least not in the moment. Don't get ahead of yourself. Show them what they want to see. Maybe lightly hint at the fact that they can integrate other processes, but the way to get their foot in the door is to reassure them on the first thing that they're requesting. They're not going to do anything else with Odoo if they're not convinced on the inventory management, which is what brought them to the partner and brought them to Odoo. So make sure to be able to give a demo that can go very in-depth into all the possibilities with one app so that they're confident and comfortable that it's going to be able to address their needs. Only then are they going to be able to think about other apps and how they could adopt them as well. Lastly, you're going to have a custom demo. This is going to be once you have had maybe a couple meetings with the client, you understand a little bit more of what they're looking for, and you're going to address specific features and processes. It's going to be less generic, and it's especially going to highlight the value of the partner services, because the generic Odoo demo, most people are going to understand that after a little bit they'll be able to do these things, especially if you've highlighted how easy it is to use and implement Odoo. With a custom demo, you're really showing them what the partner is going to be offering in terms of really personalizing them and addressing what they need, not what Odoo can do. They might be requesting some developments, and it might have been discussed, but it's very important to remember your custom demo does not have to involve development, and we highly recommend not doing this. You shouldn't develop before selling. Once you've made a commitment to be hired for services for them, you should start developing. But if it's a demo, keep it light, explain to them how it's going to work, and Studio is a great way to prototype what you're doing without actually having developed these processes. Show off the more specific things that they want to see, and explain how the more complicated features are going to work. But understand that the dev work is going to be more of a cost on you, and you haven't even confirmed a sale with the client. So you want to approach that carefully while also creating a very great customized presentation that is going to make the client really comfortable with working with you and deciding on using Odoo. Let's see. The next step is product implementation. If you've gained their trust as an Odoo partner who knows what they're talking about, and they know what Odoo is, and they've understood what Odoo can do for them, the next question you're going to answer is, how are you going to make this happen? You want to be able to know how to explain this in a way that's going to make them feel comfortable. This part of the process is going to be identifying and describing all the parties that are going to be involved in your proposal for the implementation. Explain to them how you're going to offer all the solutions they need and the services that they're going to be able to get from you. And try to determine a realistic and cost-effective timeline. Every partner should read the Odoo implementation methodology in order to understand how we best recommend to handle these implementation timelines. It's really good in order to set realistic expectations and to avoid the anchor effect with both timeline and pricing. What I mean by the anchor effect is, if you're going to claim a number in terms of a date or in terms of the price of something, whatever you said first is what your client is going to register moving forward and compare to anything else that they see. So it's always better to give them a more loose and more generous number in that case, because taking less than planned to implement or costing less than what they expected, that's great news. But if something takes longer and feels like it's getting delayed, or if something is getting more expensive than what they were first told, then it can get really bad and the situation can start getting ugly. I've had a lot of cases where partners overpromised, tried to make everything sound a lot more simple than it was going to be, and once they ran into problems, the client was getting very frustrated because they thought they would have a website up and running within a month, and this wasn't the case. And this can lead to the client dropping the partner and potentially even dropping Odoo overall. But even if they've dropped the partner and they go with another one, these expectations are going to carry over. So this is something you're going to have to understand as a partner when you are adopting clients that have maybe worked with someone else. You're not just dealing with their problems, but you're also dealing with whatever expectations were set before, which is a little unfair, but you have to try to realign them and adjust their expectations, because you don't want them to get frustrated or to feel like they were tricked because they got promised something that was too good to be true. If you're a newer partner and it's earlier on in the process, really work closely with your AM or use the support of a partner success pack in order to make sure you're familiar with how to set up the implementation methodology or a gap analysis if that's necessary. Gap analysis is usually going to be for custom projects where you're going to estimate the difference between what's available out of the box and what is going to need to be developed. But for quick start projects, it can be also necessary or helpful if there is going to be some light customization or some more complicated configurations. With this in mind, you are going to have to decide what kind of partner you want to be and what kind of approach you're going to have, whether you're always trying to get the same approach or if you're just deciding it for this specific project. Don't try to do a hybrid approach. Make it clear from the beginning, both for yourself and for the client. A quick start partner is someone who's going to try to do a fast implementation that's going to be mostly out of the box, where they're going to be able to address almost everything that a client needs. And I say 90% expected features because it's hard to get 100% because every client's going to have very specific things that it's just not worth it to implement for them. And they're going to have to give that 10% of adapting to the configuration. And that's what they're saving on custom developments or a longer implementation process. The good thing about an out-of-the-box implementation is the implementation is going to be quicker and it's going to be less involved. And it's going to be less complicated, which means a partner can manage several projects at the same time. You can start racking up references and building a name for yourself. Also, these clients, they're going to be more open-minded, they're going to be less demanding, and usually they're going to be more patient because they're not as involved, so they don't understand as much how much things should take. And it's going to be an easier process. The bad part of an out-of-the-box implementation is that usually this is because they're smaller companies, which means they have smaller budgets. Regarding pricing, negotiations might be a little bit more frustrating because they might be less experienced with the process of a software implementation. So they're coming in with some misguided expectations or no expectations. These are the kind of people who will be asking why they have to pay before they go live. That's what I mean by coming in with the wrong expectations just because they don't have the experience. Usually these clients also are going to come in with less of a commitment. Because they're less involved, that does mean they have one foot out of the door, so there is a higher chance of churn, and that's something you should keep in mind. They're giving you more leeway to do what you want, but it makes them feel less committed and like it's possible to jump out without losing as much because they haven't sacrificed as much from their end. Also, these are usually less of a valuable reference because they're smaller companies, so it's less likely to be well known or more impressive when you're pitching to a new customer. The other type of implementation, and the other type of partner that you can try to sell yourself as, is a custom project partner. This means that you're dealing with clients that are larger and they're well versed in ERP software. They have very clear requirements, but they're less willing to change. So they're gonna not be able to make drastic changes to their company or to what they are even looking for without a lot of approvals from a multi-layered hierarchy. They're gonna come into your conversation with an elaborate RFQ document. They're gonna ask very specific technical questions. And sometimes they're not even gonna be coming in from the company itself. They've hired an external consultant who is evaluating different softwares. And so you need to convince them first on Odoo compared to other softwares and only after this first level you're going to start talking with people from this client. So this is more complicated. You're going to need more internal resources. And like I said, you will need probably a developer, you're going to need a business analyst, and a project manager, because the client is going to want some more specific features, and more than likely they're going to want some integrations, because a larger company can't do a full migration from one or many softwares all into one ERP. They're probably going to come in expecting one software or one department to be replaced with Odoo, and maybe in the long term are they going to consider adding Odoo to more departments. The good thing about working with these kind of clients and being this kind of partner is that obviously the customers have larger projects, which means they have higher budgets, and this is going to involve more users, which means it's more money per project, and your partner level is going to go up fast. Also, since they are averse to change, while the pre-sale is going to be longer, it's going to require a lot of demos. Once they're in, they're committed to the long term. They've made a big decision that's costing them a lot of money, and so you can rest more easily knowing that you have a more reliable recurring income, because they've made that decision thinking very long term, at least 3 or 5 years. So like I said already, some of the more complicated aspect of working on these projects, the pre-sales is going to be longer. They're going to need a lot of demos, especially proof of concept, and you're often going to be repeating the same meeting several times to different people, and that's because you're getting approved by different levels in the company. So you need to understand the pre-sales is going to be longer. Sometimes it's going to be frustrating, but if it works, you're going to end up with a really great reference that is going to allow you to get more customers in the future. Keep in mind though, these are more difficult. They're going to take up a lot of your time. The clients are going to be more demanding, and you're not going to be able to take as many of these projects at a time. So make it clear from the beginning, have a good qualification to know what kind of client you're dealing with, and structure your partnership accordingly. Work closely with your AM to understand what the expectations of the client are and what is going to be able to be offered by Odoo and the partner. Lastly, it's important to understand and go over the pricing model. How the partner and Odoo is going to present what the cost is going to be for this client. The total cost is a part of Odoo invoicing directly for the license and the partner offering their services. Like I explained at the beginning, the roles are different. We're providing the product, the partner is providing the services, but we are a team. So it's important to present these together. It can feel really disjointed if the client thinks that they're talking to 2 different people and paying 2 different entities. Even if that's kind of what they're doing, the partner and the account manager should be presenting themselves as a united team. And when they're looking at the cost of their implementation, they should see it all as one, because it makes it less likely that they're going to be negotiating in 2 terms, both with the partner and with the Odoo representative, which is going to delay the project, and it's going to make the negotiation go for longer. It's going to lead to a more frustrating process. It's exactly what you want to avoid. Keep in mind how you're going to structure your pricing. I'm not joking when I have seen a partner quote a client with 1 line saying implementation services for $15,000. You can't quote a client like this. You need to let them know what they're paying for, because the more vague it is, the more of an issue they're going to have when things don't go well or when they don't understand how the timeline is supposed to work. So for an out-of-the-box implementation, set the costs of the installation if it's going to be an on-premise server. Set the different costs of the configuration, what you're going to need from your consultants and how long it's going to take. Set costs for user training, if that's something that has been established that's going to be happening, as well as for the ongoing and support and maintenance, what that's going to look like for them in the long term. If it's a custom project, again, make it clear what the installation is going to be for them. The gap analysis. Remember, the gap analysis has a cost. It's a lot of time on your part. It's an investment. You should never do a gap analysis for free. Your consultants are going to work and your developments are going to work on making sure they understand everything they need to do. Quote them for the developments, the configuration, and again, the user training and the support and the maintenance. This is all what you want to define as precisely as possible, but also letting the client know that it's very likely it's going to change. It's natural. ERP implementations, they evolve, they change, the client expectations change, the client needs and requirements are going to change, and that's okay. It's just good to have a plan to adapt from, because if it's not clear from the beginning, it can quickly seem very chaotic, and the partner's going to lose that trust that we built up earlier in the process. And as well, make it clear with the licenses what that's going to cost and negotiate it together. Me and many partners and account managers have fallen into the temptation of saying, let's start with a monthly contract. Let's start small in terms of the licenses, but an ERP implementation takes a long time, and the partner's going to be working on this for a long time. Get them to feel more committed by going with a longer subscription model. You want them to feel like this is a long-term commitment. Going back to the house analogy, they're not renting an apartment, they're buying a house. Make them feel comfortable with such a big decision, because that's what they're doing. And you will see the difference in how comfortable they are moving forward and how they see you as an ongoing service, as someone that is a part of their company and that's going to be with them for the long term. That concludes what I wanted to talk about today. So the last question is to go over what we've discussed. We went over understanding and defining your role as an Odoo partner, both for yourself and for the client. Understanding the sales pitch, how to talk about Odoo, and how to explain it to people who have never seen Odoo before and who might have some doubts. How to show Odoo in a demo, understanding who you're showing it to and what they want to see, and how to approach that accordingly. Next, choose your implementation methodology. Understand how you're going to approach configuring everything for them, and let them know how it's going to work, so that everyone feels like they're on the same page and the communication feels transparent. That's going to lead to less frustration and less conflict between the partner, the client, and Odoo. And that ends my presentation here. Thank you very much for watching. Thank you for being an Odoo partner, and take care. Let me know if you have any questions. My contact information was there, but once again, it's rmc@odoo.com, and feel free to ping me, ping your account manager, ask for more information, try to establish a closer relationship, because we want you to succeed and we want to help you grow. And big things are coming for Odoo and for our Odoo partners.